some faculty were younger than me. And finally, I found that even some disciplines were younger than me. My years in IIM Bangalore transformed my perspective, training me to integrate my worm's eye view as a practitioner with the bird's eye view of a policy analyst. They were also among the happiest in my professional life because my cynicism came to be tempered with hope and cheer as I began to interact with youth like you, who were my fellow scholars, but who were also the future of our country. Since completing my research, I returned to government, but I continued my academic and research interests. As I returned from my sabbatical to service transformed, I began to wear and continue to wear many hats, as Dr. Vanipriya said, as a scholar, as a practitioner, as a volunteer, and as a speaker. What I try to be is to be a composite public policy professional in the most complete sense of the word. Let's go to this. This is our agenda for today. We will briefly look at what is edutech and why COVID-19 has forced this imperative upon us. We will move to a historical perspective and then the present of tech learning as it is today. Moving on to the issues and challenges in edutech, we will gather these different threads together when we view the backdrop of providing quality education through technology in the Indian scenario. We will close with the future ahead of us. Next. Next, please. The COVID-19 forced all of us lucky enough to have regular jobs to work from home. Freelancers have always done this, but teaching is, or was until now, intrinsically about human contact, about real-time communication between teachers and students. As one transitions into WFH for what looks like an uncertain future, one begins to wonder, what is the future of pedagogy? Is the classroom being permanently taken over by Google Meet or Zoom? Looking further ahead, will universities just need humans or robots to record lectures and upload them on the internet? Is the human teacher in the actual classroom a dinosaur on the verge of extinction? Next, please. Look at this. This is a 14th century illustration by Laurentius de Bottolinia depicting a medieval university lecture in medieval Italy. The scene is easily recognizable. I'm sure the students and the teachers here will find it familiar because of its parallels to the modern day. The teacher lectures from the podium at the front of the room, and the students sit in rows and listen. Some of the students have books open in front of them and appear to be following along. A few look bored. Some are talking to their fellow students. One appears to be sleeping. I don't know which one is the young. And in some ways, we see that education seems much the same as it has been for many years. Classrooms today don't look much different, though you might find that the modern students look at their smartphones or their laptops instead of books. A cynic would say that technology has not done anything to change education. But this is a limited view. Although some might view technology as intrusive, for the younger generations, it is pervasive. Children and young adults make up about 1/3 of all internet users. They were born and grew up with technology, so they are more hyper-connected and digitally savvy than their parents. The combination combination of evolving educational needs for children and a more uncertain future of work means that updating what children learn and how they learn it has become a crucial issue for schools and colleges. It is this imperative that paves way for technology's role in education. Technology has transformed almost every aspect of our lives, and now it seems that education systems worldwide are due for an update. As it sweeps through classrooms, educators and developers create more and more products designed to enhance the quality of education. There is a growing edutech industry with corporate titans and small startups vying for a slice of the market for hardware and software. And so it may be fair to say that technology has impacted almost every aspect of life today, and education is no exception. Next, please. What is educational technology? It has both generalized and specialized meanings. To the lay public and to a majority of educators, the term refers to the instructional use of computers, television, and other kinds of electronic hardware and software. Specialists prefer the term instructional technology because this term covers both the process and the devices which are employed in classrooms. A comprehensive description by the Association of Educational Communications and Technology says, instructional technology is a complex integrated process involving people, procedures, ideas, devices, and the organization of all of these for analyzing problems and devising, implementing, evaluating, and managing solutions to these problems in situations in which learning is purposive and controlled. Let's go to the next. Let us take a brief look at the past. Educational technology is not new. In 1913, Edison asserted, books will soon be obsolete in schools. Our school system will completely be changed in the next 10 years. This marked the advent of films into technology, but films never reached the level of influence that Edison had predicted. Teachers used films only sparingly. Some of the reasons were teachers were not skilled in using the equipment, the cost of films, the cost of the equipment, the upkeep of the equipment, inaccessibility when needed, the time involved in finding the right film for the right class. I remember my own school days. My school decided to show us, I don't know, some of those who are my age will remember that All the President's Men. Yeah? And in the school auditorium, in a 16 screen, with more echo than audio. And it all went above our heads. It was only many years later as an adult that I truly experienced and enjoyed this Hollywood classic. Radio was the next technology to gain attention. Radio also did not have the kind of influence and impact that its advocates had hoped. In the beginning, poor audio reception and the cost of equipment were obstacles. When these problems were overcome in later years, the lack of fit between the broadcast and the teacher's instructional agendas became important obstacles. Ultimately, efforts to promote radio instructions were abandoned when television became available. Instructional television was the focus of attention during the 1950s and the 1960s. By the 1970s, much of the enthusiasm had been exhausted. Instructional television appeared to prosper only where there was substantial public, corporate, or commercial support. Schools found it again quite expensive because program development itself was expensive through the television, and the purchase of and maintenance of the equipment also was expensive. Moreover, despite repeated efforts, it proved nearly impossible to broadcast instructions when individual teachers needed it. The next technology to capture the interest of the educator was the computer. The earliest work on instructional applications of computing took place in the 50s and the 60s, but it was not until the 1980s that the appearance of microcomputers that became the kind of herald for educators and public officials to become enthusiastic about the use of computers in the classroom. And the function of computers in schools differs from that of the education technologies that had gone before it. In the case of films, radio, television, projectors, other instructional media, educational technology is used to support and enhance the teacher's role as the instructor. Teacher support was also an important justification which was given for the introduction for computers in schools, but it has not been the only or even the most important justification. Computers are also promoted as an important part of the school curriculum itself. You yourself teach it in your college. Learning about computers and teaching computing skills have been accepted by educators and the lay public as a necessary curricular requirement because they give students the tools that are needed to function effectively in modern society. Next, please. How did this change happen? The history of educational technology is marked by the increasing complexity and sophistication of devices, exaggerated claims by technology advocates, sporadic implementation by classroom teachers, and little evidence that the technology employed has actually made a difference in student learning. Although technology proponents have from time to time claimed that technology will replace teachers, this has not occurred. At the same time, with an influx of new learning models available, teachers are tapping into the digital revolution and adopting new technologies to help students reach their full potential. This is because what technology actually does is to open up a world of exciting possibilities. Therefore, the use of technology in education is growing alongside the move from teacher-centric education to student-centric education. It is self-evident that one teacher addressing a class of 100 cannot customize her teaching inputs for every student in a way a personal PC-based learning system can. This has led educators to believe that classrooms of the future will be centered around self-paced and personalized learning. Such a student-centric approach would allow children to choose their own pace and learning objectives based on individual interests, all of which could be guided by artificial intelligence, chatbots, video-based learning, and so on. Technology can be used effectively to supplement instruction by providing instructional variety, by helping to make abstract concepts concrete, by stimulating interest among students. So, what new technologies are really doing is that they are not just changing the field for students, they are shaking up the world of educators also, creating philosophical shifts in approaches to teaching and remodeling the classroom. A historical understanding of the role of technology in education therefore demands an understanding of how the advent of technology went hand in hand with changing perspectives of the philosophy of education itself. During the first half of the 20th century, transfer of learning theories were popular among classroom teachers. And according to these theories, the principal task of the teacher was to transfer the teacher's knowledge from the teacher's head to the student, and the textbook content from the textbook to the student, and through periodic examinations evaluate whether the transfer has already happened. During the second half of the century, educators embraced other theories of learning, and one of these was behaviorism. Educators promoting behaviorism emphasize the importance of providing clear statements of what learners should be able to do following the instruction. What would be the impact of the instruction? They sought to break complex units of knowledge and skills into smaller and simpler units, sequencing them in a way that would lead to mastering complex skills and content. The goal was to individualize instruction as far as possible. Thus, the focus of instruction shifted from the presentation of content and knowledge before a group of students to a focus on the behavior of the learners and the reinforcement of desirable behavior. Computers appear to offer a good solution. Students could be assigned to a computer to work at their own pace, and the computer would keep track of the students' work and provide a record of each student's progress to the teacher. Such programs evolved into what were called individualized learning systems. The belief that it was possible to design instruction so that all students could learn led to an interest in the design of learning materials and a systems approach to instruction. During the last half of the 20th century, cognitive theories of learning gained ascendancy, and constructivism began to influence education. Constructivists argue that learners must construct their own understanding. So you see the transition. First it is transfer of knowledge. I know something, I am giving it to you. The second is, I have some knowledge, I am giving it to you, but the purpose is to alter your behavior. That you should have learned something at the end of it. Now, I should enable you to construct your own ideas of what you are learning about. So, there is a transition in the philosophy of education itself which took place over a whole century or two. Learners should construct their own learning of whatever is being taught. According to this perspective, the teacher's task is not primarily one of promoting knowledge transfer, nor it is of ensuring that the students perform consistently according to a predetermined understanding of what is knowledge and what is skill. The teacher's role is to create an environment where the students are able to arrive at their own interpretations of knowledge while becoming ever more skillful in directing their own learning. Some constructivists recognize the computer as a potential ally and designed programs that took advantage of these beliefs, and the result has been computer-based programs that promote higher-level thinking and encourage collaborative learning. The online system of a seminar is the simplest example of that kind of learning. Thus, changes in the philosophy of education itself and the reframing of its objectives went hand in hand with adapting and utilization of technology in education. It is hard to say which influenced which, but it is clear that there was a move from the dissemination of knowledge to a student-centric approach, which in turn evolved from a personalized learning system to a more participative, collaborative, and dynamic kind of learning, doing, discussing, rethinking model of education. Go to the next. With an influx of new learning models available, educators are tapping into the digital revolution and adopting new technologies to help students reach their full potential. And let us take a look at the array of tools available. As you are engineering students, I am not going to go into detail about this. AI is one very obvious tool. Chatbots, video learning, extended reality, and computer literacy itself. Learning to use the computer, not just use the tool, but learning to make the tool yourself, to program the tool yourself. All this became fundamental to the use of technology in education and the use of technology to transform educational purposes and educational objectives also. Let's go to the next one. Throughout the 20th century, technology zealots have heralded one technology after another, as I said, radio, television, computer, as having the capacity to transform schools, but such transformations have not occurred. Film, radio, television, and other instructional media have enriched the classroom resources available to teachers. However, rather than challenging traditional classroom practices, they were used to maintain and help assist the traditional practices. The culture of teaching, with teachers in charge of instruction before a class of students, has remained relatively constant. However, computers have the power to transform schools because they empower learners, because they challenge the authority of teachers as the sole sources of information, and because they encourage an active rather than a passive learner. That is why computers, along with the internet, may eventually provide the catalyst that will result in institutional and fundamental transformation. Here are some areas of education where this transformational potential is manifest. The first is research. Students once relied on local and school libraries. All of us who belong to my age group, you will remember that we used to go to our school libraries or libraries far away, British Council, and then try to refer books. Today, none of your students need to do that. Databases are available at the click of the computer. The second is the spirit of inquiry. Student inquiry goes beyond the data collection. It is an opportunity for students to investigate questions or issues that concern them and engage them in real-world activities. Communication allows students to contact experts such as scientists, book authors, and political leaders, whoever they want. You don't now, I remember for my research, I used to go and interview people in person. Now my son is a neurosurgeon. When he wants to do research, he just talks to somebody online and consults with some scholar in the field who is located overseas. He does not need to go there in person. Something evokes your curiosity. You can just try to connect. And there are so many different ways of connecting. The third is constructing new knowledge. Learners are enabled to move from being knowledge consumers to knowledge producers. The simplest example of this is the YouTube video. How many of you will be producing reels which you can then disseminate either over your WhatsApp or on the YouTube? You have your own channels. You dispense advice on multiple things from makeup to how to manage your parents and things like that. So you are able to present your own original data by integrating digital, video, audio and text into documents, multimedia presentations, videos or web-based documents. Then, access to learning resources. Some schools lack the resources to provide all the courses that students may require. Advanced placement and foreign language courses can be expensive for a school system. But now, interactive television, internet video conferencing provides students an opportunity to participate in a class which is located far away. You can participate. I don't know how many of you saw it. There was a class which Yuval Noah Harari, who is located in the Hebrew University in Israel, Tel Aviv. He conducted a class for students in war-torn Ukraine, and it was, we could also see it and participate in the classroom. So that kind of interaction is possible. Addressing special needs. Now we don't need to go beyond Stephen Hawking to understand how the whole, he was an embodiment of the human brain and the human intelligence. which would have been lost for us except for the fact that technology had helped us to tap into it until he passed away. So that was the addressing special needs and being able to kind of harness the education available is that also is possible because of the use of technology. And most importantly, for people like us who live in a democracy, the democratization of education itself has been made possible because of technology. It has greatly expanded access to education. Rather than travel to centers of learning, information is available at one's fingertips through the internet. Opportunities for formal learning are available online through the Khan Academy, through MOOCs, podcasts, and so on. Opportunities for communication and collaboration have been expanded by technology. Traditionally, classrooms have been relatively isolated and collaboration has been limited to other students in the same classroom or the same building. Today, technology enables forms of communication and collaboration undreamt of in the past. Students in a classroom in rural India, for example, can learn about the Arctic by following an expedition of scientists to that region, read the scientists' blog postings, email questions to the scientists, and even talk to the scientists live via video conference. Students can share what they are learning with other students in other classrooms in other states or who are tracking the same expedition. They can collaborate in group projects using technology-based tools such as Google Doc. Walls of the classroom are no longer a barrier as technology enables new ways of learning. The new technologies are therefore powerful tools to help schools meet the needs of ever more diverse student populations. Then, technology has begun to change the role of teachers and learners. In the traditional classroom, the teacher was the sage on the stage, like I am standing here now, dispensing knowledge to the classroom. However, because of the access to information and educational opportunity that technology has enabled, in many classrooms today, we see that the teacher's role has shifted to guide on the side, right? From sage on the stage to guide on the side. Maybe that's why I put the podium to the side of the because students begin to take more and more responsibility for their own learning. Knowledge and information are now available within the click of a button for anybody at any time. And teachers are not the sole source of information anymore. The new targets of learning, therefore, are to build skills and not just passing information. The teacher is now a facilitator in the learning process that is built on the student's curiosity to inquire into knowledge and focuses on the inquiry rather than on the knowledge. The teacher becomes a curator, leading the learner towards the right sources while rejecting the less credible ones. Schools and universities are therefore beginning to redesign learning spaces to enable this new model of education, foster more interaction and small group work, and using technology as an enabler. Next, please. There are a number of issues, and I am not going to go into this now. This is for a much longer session. But when you are using technology for education, there are issues of legality, of privacy, of ethics, media literacy that the student should be able to understand, not go into the wrong areas, and funding. Funding is always an issue. And finally, let us look into this, the tradition versus tech battle. And I am quoting from a teacher who wrote on the internet. But in this virtual non-existent classroom, there was nobody but me. She is describing her experience. All of you would have had this when you were, taking online classes during the height of COVID. I was talking to my inanimate, unresponsive, expressionless iPad. I went to the lecture, occasionally repeating, occasionally passing, and completely clueless about whether I had succeeded in making a connection. These are the words of a teacher. A significant portion of research shows that most teachers have been slow in transforming the ways that they teach. Four barriers to technology integration in instruction are inadequate teacher training. Does not strictly apply to you because you are still an institute of technology, but in a humanities classroom, this would be very relevant. Lack of vision about the technology's potential, lack of time to experiment, and inadequate technical support. Teachers have to learn ways of teaching that are very different from the way they have themselves been taught. And students are more computer savvy than the teacher, and that itself puts teachers in a weak position. Let's go to the next. Let us now go to the Indian picture. Imagine a far-flung rural village in India without electricity or infrastructure or a government school even, at home with children studying on a smartphone provided by the government or by an NGO under the guidance of astute mentors. This is the true power and potential of online learning platforms, transmitting knowledge to the farthest and most marginalized sections of our society. The e-learning industry in India has been mushrooming at the growth rate of about 25% on year. India has several advantages: relatively low cost, an increasingly expanding smartphone user base, access to premium educational institutions, and greater employability after concluding a degree. Until recently, social demographic factors in India have never allowed for more than an elite flirtation with online teaching and learning pedagogy, mostly within expensive universities or as self-financed professional training modules. However, state-financed education has opened up digital technology to a much larger number than was earlier possible. Let's go to the next. What are we moving towards? When the crisis mercifully winds its way to an end, will we move back to status quo ante, or will we use the opportunity provided to re-engineer our systems? This is a choice that every educator has to make. My own sense is that we will gradually move towards a more hybrid educational system where traditional and tech are blended. When campuses open, as they have opened now, 70% of learning may go back to what it was, but 30% will continue in the digital mode. A re-engineered hybrid system will broadly comprise of four components: real-time communication such as Zoom, FB Live, Google Teams, and so on; online education platforms like Coursera and edX, where high-quality curated content is already available; a dedicated learning management platform, which is much easier to search than generic platforms like YouTube; and finally, a protocol for online assessment and plagiarism control. There will also have to be changes in the regulation of education, change of investment focus from brick and mortar to online schools, changes in recruitment to meet the challenging needs of recruiting subject matter experts and teachers who also have computer skills, and dedicated teams to develop and curate online content. Faculty selection will gradually become linked to technology friendliness and keenness for technology adoption. Accreditation criteria will undergo change. Going forward, the use of technology in teaching or recruitment will lead to a new era wherein the best of faculty will be available across the globe to students. Education quality will be gauged not just by the quality of faculty but also the quality of IT infrastructure and familiarization of the faculty with digital technologies. COVID-19 has only accelerated the adoption of technology to deliver education. However, what is more important is that these aids are used in tandem with developmental and educational psychology, ultimately keeping students rather than technology at the core of education. After all, how students develop these skills is perhaps less important than their ability to navigate change, as change is the only thing that will remain constant. COVID-19 has taught us that physical distancing is not social distancing. It has made us practitioners of personal social responsibility and collective social responsibility. Through a new mode of education, we can generate an ethos of socially engaged responsibility and the ethics of care. Hence, as educationists and teachers, we are required to make a choice. Should we continue with the kind of education that only wants to make us dominate the planet? Or should we learn some deep lessons from the present crisis and redefine education to undertake a new journey? This is where we stand now at the crossroads. You are the people who have to take the decision. Thank you all very much for your patience.